Hi, I'm Matthew Herzberg, and this is the Myopia Mindset. Fake it till you make it. I'm sure you're familiar with this phrase. I hate it. I hate the phrase fake it till you make it. I don't like the idea of being fake about anything in life, let alone myopia management. I prefer the term genuine authenticity. And when it comes to orthokeratology or myopia management, that's what I'm used to. The practice I grew up in was based on being true to oneself, genuine authenticity. Dr. Kerry Herzberg, who I worked under, he would tell you I'm the same person in practice that I am at home and in my personal life. And I have seen firsthand how that helps to build trust with your patients and their parents and gets you invested in their lives and the treatment and well-being of their children. It is a critically overlooked component of success with myopia management. And for my episode for you today, I've got two parts. My guest is Dr. Christine Yeung. I've wanted to get her on the podcast for a number of reasons. One of the surprise themes of both part one and part two is genuine authenticity, staying true to oneself. In part one, you're going to hear all about Christine's journey towards success, how she struggled in the beginning, the things that she went through, trial and error, figuring it out, but figuring it out from a point that made sense to her. And I think it's a very inspiring conversation. And I think there's a lot to learn from it. Part two is all about what she did with that success, what she did with those lessons learned to build towards success. And I think that is equally inspiring, and there's a lot to learn from it as well. Part one is going to be available to everybody. Part two is going to be available to our paid subscribers. Our paid subscribers are the reason why we're here. They agree that myopia management is the greatest thing ever, and their support means that we can continue this podcast and spread the message about how awesome myopia management really is. And if that sounds interesting to you, consider becoming a paid subscriber. I would really appreciate your consideration. You can do so on our Substack. All right, let's get to the episode. Hi, I'm Matthew Herzberg, and this is the Myopia Mindset. This is the podcast that is your motivation, inspiration, and education on your path towards success in myopia management. And my guest for this episode has a lot of heart and hard-won wisdom in her myopia management story. She's an optometrist and practice owner in Oakville Eye Care, where she's been serving her community for over 17 years. She's a fellow of the American Academy of Orthokeratology and Myopia Control with a deep passion for using innovative, evidence-based solutions like Ortho-K to improve vision and quality of life beyond patient care. She's dedicated to educating both the public and fellow practitioners about myopia management, and she's been known for her personalized approach, clinical excellence, and her commitment to lifelong learning. Dr. Christine Yeung, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Matt. I appreciate it. Yes, thank you for having me. That was a pleasant and nice, flattering introduction there. Thank you very much.
Yeah, no worries. I the more I've learned about you, and I hope this doesn't come off really creepy, but like the more that I've heard about you in our conversations, like a Vision by Design and whatnot, I'm reminded of like how, the struggles that like successful myopia management doc or orthokeratologist has gone through. And that's why I added that part in the beginning, that your story has a lot of heart and hard-won wisdom. And I'm hoping that, we can share some pearls for the audience from just hearing about your story and how you've gotten here. But before we get going on that, if anybody wants to get in touch with you after the episode, how can they do so?
Yeah, so I'm on the socials, so you could find me on LinkedIn. Just message me or connect with me there, or you could email me. So email is cyeung@cyicare.com, CYEUNG@CYEYECARE.com.
Awesome. And for the Myopia Mindset in general, if you have any questions about anything we've talked about in this episode, you can reach us at myopiamindset@gmail.com. You can find out more information about the podcast. And if you're excited about myopia management just as much as we are, you can consider supporting the podcast on our Substack or at myopiamindset.com is how you do so. Okay, let's get a quick snapshot. Like, tell us what your practice looks like right now.
So I actually have two clinics. So I started off my first clinic, like you said, about 17 years ago. And then we kind of branched off and started a smaller Ortho-K myopia control center, like a smaller clinic in the same area. But obviously that was focused for the specialty care. So that's really what we have. We have like a primary care office north of town that we kind of do everything like glaucoma screenings, dry eye. We do Ortho-K myopia control there as well, but really primary care and really primary care. And then we've got our smaller clinic just south of town that really just focuses on myopia control and Ortho-K. And it's dedicated for that. We've got our MedMot or our topographer in both clinics and our axial length biometer in the smaller clinic as well. So yeah, that's kind of where we are. And I kind of just go back and forth between the two clinics.
Mm-hmm. And do you do primarily Ortho-K and myopia management in your practice?
Yeah, I've kind of evolved in that sense. I mean, it was a struggle. Obviously, I started primary care. Like that's where the first practice was. And we got quite busy before I implemented Ortho-K first. Myopia control came a little bit later, right? But in terms of kind of as Ortho-K grew, and I had to make space for those patients, we kind of cut back on my primary care hours.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of where I've struggled. I've talked to other colleagues about that as well, like having a specialty clinic and a primary care clinic. I mean, I love my patients. They've trusted me with me handling their care and their eye care, and I've built up those relationships over the years. And it's hard for me to kind of split the time between the two. So I haven't yet fully delved straight into Ortho-K myopia control because I still miss those patients. Like, I love having that relationship with patients and seeing their families, seeing their kids grow up. So I'd still try to balance between the two. And my patients have been so kind and still trusting me and kind of sometimes our wait times are a little bit longer, but they'll still come in and we kind of continue on in terms of their primary care. So there's a little bit of struggle there between balancing out like your specialty care patients and your primary care patients.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's such an interesting perspective of, it really does shed a light on how connected myopia doctor is to their patients, right? Because you give so much to them because you want to give them the best level of care. And myopia management, Ortho-K specifically, you have to spend so much time with them. And that whole process gets you so involved in who they are and their lives. Like it's kind of like the silver lining to the extra work that you're going to have to put in to a myopia management practice.
Yeah. And watching even my Ortho-K patients, like, I guess all my young patients grow up.
Yeah.
Obviously, we get to know our Ortho-K patients a lot more because we see them much more often. But seeing the kids grow up, I was talking with a patient this week, and we saw her from JK, and the mom's like, "Yeah, we've been coming from kindergarten, and then now she's in like graduating high school now, looking at universities, doing that application, and." Of course, we've seen other kids kind of graduate, finish university, and then start their careers, actually. And it's really just heartwarming. I feel so proud of them when they go off and they get their jobs and they're working individuals now. It's lovely.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a beautiful thing for sure. And I mean, I've seen it from the staff perspective growing up in my parents' practice. My dad being an Ortho-K doctor and my mom being the one who figured out how the practice flow needs to work and how much time we need to spend with these patients. And that's why I was saying, like, you can't help but get invested in their lives. And, my parents, like, I joke, they'll never retire. They still see, even though they closed down their practice and merged it with another one, they still see all of their patients who are still continuing Ortho-K, they're just not taking on any new ones. So it's like even
Right.
in the advanced years, they're still like, seeing their patients that they've basically spent their entire lives with, like
Yeah.
even some of the kids, are now have lives of their own and kids of their own.
Right.
It's an amazing kind of perspective to have for sure.
Yeah. And that's the part of the, I guess, the job, I guess you could say. Like, I don't look at it as a job. Like, I enjoy what I do.
Hmm.
But that's really, I mean, that's what I love about it is just making those connections with the people in our community and growing with their family.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Um, let's take us back to like nearly 20 years ago and about what first drew you to Ortho-K,
Yeah.
because I know as a part of your story, like, you've said like, boy, it's been a journey to get
Hmm.
to this point. So take us back to the beginning, because like, tell us like how you got, what attracted you to Ortho-K and like what because you only had like a first couple of cases initially, so tell us how you started out.
Yeah. Yeah. So I actually got started with Ortho-K actually when I was in school, like at the University of Waterloo. Or my first exposure to Ortho-K was at the school and at the contact lens research, the CCLR center. They were doing when Paragon first was coming out. They were doing a study, and so I volunteered to be part of it, and I got fitted with Ortho-K lenses. That was my first exposure. I was fitted with it, went
Yeah.
through the whole process, and wore Ortho-K lenses. Like I thought it was awesome. I didn't have to wear my glasses anymore, and I just was an Ortho-K lens wearer. And then when I was graduating, kind of thinking back, when I was graduating, I remember there was a group of us, and we were talking with one of the profs, and we were just kind of talking about what our plans were after graduating. And I kind of just like um, threw out something like, oh, maybe I want to do like an Ortho-K. Like I want to focus on Ortho-K and work with kids for Ortho-K. And then I remember the prof just kind of brushing it off, actually. It was like, I don't know about that kind of thing, you know? And then at that point, I was just like, okay, maybe I don't do that. Maybe that's not a good idea. So I
Hmm.
never really did anything with it after graduating. I just wore Ortho-K lenses, but I never practiced with Ortho-K.
Hmm.
And it wasn't until I started my practice, and even then, when I first started my practice, I didn't really think about, oh, I should do Ortho-K. It was after a few years of like growing my practice or um, trying to get it to a point where it was busy enough. And then
Hmm.
um, my dad, funny enough, we were talking like, and he was always curious and making sure I was doing well in my practice, right? Growing the practice. And he's like, hey, my friend's son wears these lenses that you wear at nighttime. Have you heard of them? And I'm like, yeah, it's Ortho-K. And I think he's like a small business owner, like I think from a financial side, like he could kind of see like that would be beneficial for me if I wanted to do well in the practice or some a way to grow the practice. I think that's where he was coming from.
Hmm.
And even after that discussion with him, it was probably another year or two. I was like, okay, maybe I should really think about Ortho-K again. And I don't know how I was just searching on the internet about how to learn more about Ortho-K, and that's where I came across Vision by Design.
Hmm.
And I remember the first VBD that I went to was like Scottsdale, Arizona. And Matt, like that was like the best conference I had ever been to. Like I enjoyed it so much.
Yeah.
Um, the lectures were great. The people I met there were great. Like I remember your parents at the registration desk. You
Hmm.
were there. I'm pretty sure Lion was there. Like everyone with these big smiles, like welcoming. And just the lectures were just so interesting to me. Um,
Hmm.
I never felt bored. Like it kind of just like everything just kind of fell into place. And I was like, oh yeah, this is cool. I want to do this.
Yeah. And what was it about Ortho-K that really, stimulated that part of, your interest in it? Like, if you're trying to grow the practice, because, myopia management Ortho-K is not for everyone. I'm not
Mhm.
one of these people that says, oh, every optometrist or eye care provider should be doing myopia management. I don't believe that. If you don't have a passion for it, if it doesn't interest you, then I
Mhm.
don't think you should, right? But you should take care of your patients that need myopia management treatment. You should send them to somebody who does that. But what was it about Ortho-K that really appealed to you then at Vision by Design?
I think, well, um, I think it was more just that I was aware and I could see the benefit, like I felt the benefits of it.
Right.
Like I never, growing up in high school wearing glasses or even like having to put in soft contact lens, like I never really liked wearing glasses. It was just like, okay, this is another thing. I don't have to do surgery. It's so nice, right? Like it's such a nice alternative. And it wasn't really being done. And with VBD, it was just like, the energy at VBD. You're
Yeah.
like, you can do this. You could go out and you could go fit Ortho-K. And I think it was just that energy is like, okay, I could do this. Let's try it. Right.
Hmm.
And I think I bought my topographer at that first conference. I came home the next week and I was like ready to fit lenses.
Hmm.
Yeah. But I
And
think, yeah.
do you use that part of your origin story as an Ortho-K wearer? Does that help you like relate better to your patients, when you talk to them and their parents about Ortho-K and myopia?
Oh, for sure. A lot of patients, I guess when they're searching, I guess in the beginning, off and on, they're like, "Oh, we came to you because we know you wear the lenses."
Hmm.
Right? So some patients tell me that on their consultation. But for sure, I think when patients are describing certain things in terms of their wear or what they're experiencing, maybe it's like the irritation or discomfort. Like I know firsthand, I could relate to it certainly a lot better and help kind of troubleshoot through their issues easier.
Hmm.
But for sure, I do think it helps that I am aware.
What kind of things can you help troubleshoot as a wearer? I'm fascinated by this because I've been an Ortho-K wearer off and on myself.
Oh, okay.
Um, not so much anymore because my son is like gets up in the middle of the night, and because of the lenses, I don't see very well through them. When I'm awake, so I stopped wearing them for a little bit. But I can certainly relate to all of the different aspects of wearing Ortho-K lenses. So, what kind of things um, can help you relating to your patient? Like, does this help you make adjustments? Like, if they're saying to you, Doc, this is what I'm experiencing, does that help you figure out what's working or what's not working with the fit?
Not necessarily fit, but I think more the adjustment period. Like the most common one is like when they put on their lenses and they're reading and they're like, oh, it just feels blurry. Like it does, I don't see as well through it, or I have trouble reading. And I know there's like a plus 150 on there or whatnot. Like there's that prescription on that lens. And same with me, like I'll try to look and read something. As something smaller print with the lenses, and it's just not quite like I can't quite focus on things. So I know it's like, yeah, it's because of the prescription in there, but it's more I guess not their symptoms or complaints. It's not quite the fitting, but just kind of
Hmm.
helping them walk them through and make sure, yeah, I understand that. That happens to me sometimes as well. And this is why it's happening. Um,
Hmm.
the other one that's often is like they start to feel like their lenses are not as comfortable as before, or like they say their vision isn't as consistent when they take their
Hmm.
lenses off in the morning. I'm like, okay, let's run it through a protein clean first, and let's figure out and let's walk through different steps first. But things like that, not quite fit, Matt.
Hmm.
Or just kind of their symptoms or things come up, and they just had questions about that weren't expected, I guess, in terms of their wear.
Right. Yeah. It brings that point home of like either you should be wearing the lenses or somebody in your office should be wearing the lenses, like a staff member, because that relatability is so important, it helps kind of dispel a lot of the myth or intimidation, I think, around Ortho-K specifically. If the doctor is wearing it, that's solid gold. If a staff member is wearing it, that's just as good and sometimes even better because they can relate so much more to them. Oftentimes, like, our patients spend more time with the staff than they do with the doctor, especially when staff is doing like INR and whatnot. I found that to be very helpful as an Ortho-K wearer. Like, here's
Mhm.
what you can expect. Here's, oh, if you didn't get it, don't worry about it. Take a deep breath and we'll try again. So I think
Yep.
it's a huge benefit in that.
Yeah. And it's you mentioned the INRs. Like in the beginning, I was doing that. Like I was the one teaching
Hmm.
patients, and so yeah, that came in handy then as well. It's just like, okay, we can do this. We could try different techniques because as a wearer, we kind of try different things, right?
Hmm.
So that kind of helped with the INR as well, for sure.
So how did those first Ortho-K fits go in the very beginning? Because I know you did a couple in the beginning, in your first year of doing it. What was that period like for you? Was it like instantly successful? Was there like a learning period? Like,
Hmm.
what was it like, I guess, like emotionally and professionally for you?
I remember like kind of going through this process of like talking about Ortho-K a lot, and then a lot of people saying no, like they just like no, not, that's I'm gonna choose something else. Like there's like no Ortho-K, or like how come I haven't heard of that? That
Hmm.
seems really new to me, even though it was out by that time, but like 10 years, FDA approved for like 10 years.
Yeah.
Obviously used off label for longer than that. And they're like, no, that's not for me. Like, I haven't heard of this. How come no one else offers it? Um, so it was a lot of just like feeling like doors were shutting in your face. Like, no, like talking about Ortho-K 10, 12 times a day. And they're just like, no, 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 that's not for me. I think that was the tougher part. It's like
Yeah.
getting getting to the fit, right?
Hmm. And how did you handle those rejections? Because this is a factor that is just as relevant now as it was, back then for yourself. Like, because I hear this all the time. Doctors are struggling to still have these kinds of conversations. They're struggling with the rejection of it. I hear all the time, Matt, I didn't go to optometry school to become a salesman. I don't want to be too salesy with
Hmm.
Ortho-K. And I think it's interesting when you think of the comparison because, compared to 20 years ago, we have so much more information online. So many people are more aware of it. There's
Hmm.
so many factors that are helping this conversation along, like near work and screen time, and kids don't go outside as much as they used to.
Right.
So how did you handle those early rejections, and how did you like push through it? Because I think that's very valuable today as it was back then.
Yeah, it was I don't know, it was really discouraging for sure. I'm not salesy at all. I'm like there to present the information. I'll guide the parent through things and make my recommendation. That's kind of how I look at it. Um, I just kept going. I just
Hmm.
kept asking. I just kept talking about it. I mean, obviously there were days where I was just so deflated and was just like, I'm not even gonna say it anymore. I'm not
Yeah.
even gonna offer it as a solution because I don't want to hear that no.
Right.
Right. And then there was days like that. And then there was like other days like, okay, I need to talk about it again, especially with the kids um, and who are progressing or whatnot. And yeah, so it was just I just kept going. Like I just
Hmm.
was like, okay, I have to do this. And then even because it was kind of slow to pick up, like you said, I only did a few cases in the beginning and then maybe worked myself up to one case, like one Ortho-K patient a month type of thing, right? But it was like going to VBD. So I went to VBD every year and I think that really helped because it was just
Hmm.
like you get that enthusiasm again. At least it's like once a year where you're just like, okay, I'm pumped again. I'm gonna go at it, right? And do things differently. And um I just kept going. And then I think every year you talk to a parent about it. Um the first year they say no.
Hmm.
Second year they might say no. But you talk about it enough, I think, and then eventually like, oh yeah, that's the Ortho-K thing. the overnight lenses, overnight retainers, and then they start warming up to it. And then
Mm-hmm.
and then you might get the yes, right? I mean, not ideal. Their child's myopia is higher at this point, but still they're like more open to it. So sometimes it just takes patience,
Mm-hmm.
perseverance, and yeah, some days are just going to be, like I said, it was just, I was exhausted talking
Yeah.
about it and getting those no's, but I just kept going.
Yeah. I love it. Yeah. Are you more of a salesperson now than you were back then? Did you, or are you still that person who's not a salesperson,
I'm
essentially?
still not really like that salesperson. I think with experience and time, though, I my recommendations come with a little bit more conviction. Like
Okay.
like they're stronger recommendations because I've had that experience under my belt, so to speak. And I've seen it firsthand how it could work or really work. And it's not just for one patient. I've seen it for number of patients now, right? So no, I'm still not that salesperson. But I think my recommendations are just a little bit stronger, and hopefully just with the reputation we've had of seeing a lot of myopes and Ortho-K patients now. And like a lot of our patients are word of mouth referrals.
Mm-hmm.
It's from existing patients. So I think that helps. And to your point, I think the public service and public awareness is a lot higher. Like it's a lot better than it used to be 15 years ago, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not getting as much patients saying, how come I haven't heard this? I still get it once in a while, but not as much as before. Like it seemed like every patient before was just like, I've never heard of this.
Yeah. Yeah. And so when for your off days, how did you get yourself back into the mindset that like if you had one day where you're like, I'm not going to talk about it today. I'm tired of hearing no's, which
Mhm.
which is makes so much sense to me, right? Like why put yourself so because your parents and their kids are going to see that, right? If you're not 100% on communicating with this, you can't really expect them to pick up what you're trying to communicate, right? Like they're going to see it in you. They're going to hear it in your voice. You're going to not say all the things that you should have said in the way that you said them. So I love the idea of just like taking a break and be like, today I'm not talking about it. How did you get yourself back into the mode to then talk about it? Because I think with a lot of doctors who are trying to do myopia and specifically Ortho-K, they have more days where they're not talking about it just because that's become, well, I guess this doesn't work. Well, I guess I don't know how to talk about it or I don't have the confidence. Did you
Mhm.
have like a part of your drive that was like, no, this is important. They need to know about this and it's my duty to say something? Or was there something else that was a part of that?
I think there's twofold in it. There's one where it was just more my conscience and my ethical, um, like to do good by my patients. It was just like, okay, this kid is myopic, it's progressing. This should be offered, right? I should be
Mm-hmm.
telling this parent about it. So I'd come across those patients and were like, okay, yeah, I need to talk about this for this child for sure. And then once I talk about it, it's just back on my mind and I'll start doing it again. So that's that one point. And then later, I guess just like forcing myself to try to get more Ortho-K patients. And I think I learned it from one of the other doctors. So on my schedule, just to remind me to talk about Ortho-K, I blocked off a certain time on a certain day for Ortho-K consultations. And it was blocked off just for Ortho-K. If it wasn't filled, I'd lost, like I wasn't seeing anyone. So
Mm.
it forced me to say, okay, I need to talk about Ortho-K to actually get someone, at least get a consultant so I could talk about it more and see if they would be the right ideal candidate for it. So seeing that every week on my calendar just forced me to say, oh, right, I do have to push myself a little bit and talk about it to my patients.
Yeah. And having that block means especially when it's not getting filled. It must make you
Right.
more accountable, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly. And it was also a reminder for staff too. It was just like, oh, okay, yeah, we are offering this specialty in the clinic. Let's talk about it a little bit more at pre-test or whatnot. But yeah, exactly. Accountability is just like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, it's there. I just need that little push,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's just a reminder. And so I think that was another aspect of it.
And were you only pitching myopia and Ortho-K to for patients that obviously needed it, or did you have because eventually you get to that point where you're like, I need to talk about this with everyone. At least that's my experience. Correct me if I'm wrong. At Herzberg Optical, we got to a point where it's like, we need to tell everybody about Ortho-K because even if that single guy who's 36 and has no kids and he's not myopic, he
Right.
probably has nieces and nephews or people in his life with kids, and they should be hearing about it. And
Right.
so there was a big part of like trying to figure out how to have that conversation. And I think that's another struggle point for a lot of modern ECPs who are just learning about myopia management. So, did you have that kind of similar struggle with like, I know I need to talk about this with more patients, not just the ones that are right in front of me that obviously need it. And so we have to say something right now.
Mhm.
But did you have patients like that? And how did you start those conversations?
I wish I did, but I didn't. I was new to Ortho-K. I was keeping it like to low myopes, right?
Hmm.
With not too much cells. So I kind of narrowed things down, but I just was talking it to patients who I felt were like, oh, okay, I could do these fits. Um, and obviously the kids with the lower myopes, but I wish I did, but I was is more selective in terms of patients who I said, okay, this is your option as well. Glasses, contacts, and Ortho-K.
Yeah, and what does it look like now? Did you get to a point where you started telling more and more patients about it, even if they weren't direct candidates, or are you just sticking to the same kind of patients?
I think it comes up in conversation. I don't specifically tell them. Our office is a little bit more. There's posters that talk about it. Like it's just I'm not saying it, but in my
Hmm.
room there's just like a huge poster that's like be glasses free with Ortho-K, right? Like every
Hmm.
patient sees it when they come in. Um, they'll see it at the front as well, which is kind of posters on the wall. But certainly for every myo, I will mention Ortho-K, whatever their prescription is.
Hmm.
So if it's a parent who's nearsighted, like you said, a child, a niece, a nephew who might be also nearsighted in the family, they'll be like, oh, yeah, maybe that would be good for so and so. If it's not good for me, it might be good for someone else.
Right.
But certainly it comes up a lot more. And I think it's just more, again, awareness. I do think, at least in our practice, like we talk about it all the time.
Okay, go more into that if you can. How do you talk about it all the time? Like, like if the staff is involved, or um, what does that look like?
Yeah. So staff are fielding questions on the phone.
Okay.
I think every day because of the our second location, which is Ortho-K myopia control. So we get more referrals now. But no, in terms of just when I'm speaking with patients, it's so second nature to me, and maybe because I have these myopia days, I'm just talking about it all day, and it
Hmm.
just kind of feeds into my primary care days where I'm still talking about it to my patients, right? So I think it kind of just by osmosis just kind of bleeds into just my natural conversation with patients now.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes perfect sense too. It's like the more you talk about it, the more you feel comfortable doing it, the more confident you feel about your level of skill and expertise, then it becomes second nature to be able to communicate that. Is
Hmm.
that would that be a piece of advice that you would give to somebody who's just starting out? It's like, look, you just have to keep going. You just have to keep doing it, and eventually it will just like become second nature?
Yeah, I think you kind of have to push yourself in the beginning. I know it's hard. Like it was hard for me. Like I'm not um like you said, like I'm not that outspoken, but I will present what is good for the patient and their options. And for sure, and kind of with all the other myopia management options that we have, like I think those options should be told to a parent or to any child, like whether they're a minus fifth, like any myope, right? Those discussions should be had right now. I think we owe it to parents to tell them what options are available.
Hmm.
So those conversations are longer now because of all those options. But um, for sure, yeah, just keep talking to parents about it, patients about it, and you'll feel exhausted some days more than others. But yeah, I would just kind of keep going.
Hmm. All right. Well, that's it for part one of my conversation with Dr. Christine Yeung. I hope you've enjoyed it. Part two has got even more for you, and I'm excited to share that with you. That's coming up next week for our paid subscribers. I've made a couple of notes on what you can expect from that episode. You'll learn about how myopia management can reshape the identity of your practice. Christine's going to go into that. You're going to hear about how she overcame her fear of complexity and how practice growth often follows clinical conviction. That's part of not being the salesperson and being able to speak with a measure of experience and authority to your patients. She's also going to talk about word of mouth referrals and how powerful that is, about how families become advocates for your myopia management practice. I'm very familiar with that in the practice that I grew up in. All of that is coming up in part two, and I hope you'll join us. We don't have this podcast without our paid subscribers. So if you're enjoying this episode, don't thank me, thank a paid subscriber. The money that they support this podcast with is allowed this to be my full-time gig. I don't know if you can hear it in the background, but my son is playing. He's enjoying some time with his grandparents right now. And all of this is possible. You are enabling me to help support my family by supporting this podcast. And so becoming a paid subscriber means the world to me. I very much appreciate it. Thank you so much. And I'll see you at the next one.